Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to an action-packed, rip-roaring, mystifying episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I am your host, Luke the Tomb Raider, and hope you're all doing well and all good and all that jazz. Before we get into today's epic episode, I want to do with housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars. If you can do all three things for me right at the beginning, I will be eternally grateful. So the reason I'm so excited today and the reason I am so manic and full of energy is it's finally time. As of recording this, it is the 10th of October. And now if you know me and if you've been following me on Twitter, which you should do, you will know that I've been really hyped up for this day. The reason being, it's Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft Day, which means the new show has come out on Netflix, all 8 episodes, and I can't wait to dive into them. You know, I find it incredibly funny. And it just, that proof that manifestation is real. Because I did my first review of Lara Croft, had to have been before summer. It had to have been possibly around March, April time. I can't really remember. But I said, even though I love Angelina Jolie, I said who I would love to see take on the role of Lara Croft in a modern setting, either live action or animated, would be Hayley Atwell. I said it, and I said it again when I reviewed the second movie. And dreams do come true, because it was announced that Hayley Atwell is going to play, the voice, shall we say, of Lara Croft in the Netflix show. And I was just blown away, and I still am, that it's true, that it's real, that in a few moments I'm going to be watching Hayley Atwell, my biggest option, my biggest choice to play Lara Croft, to finally do her justice. You know, she has the voice, she has the look. I know we won't see her face, but she just has this whole mannerisms that will be perfect for this role. Like, if you haven't seen Captain Carter, the two-season series, I don't think it's on Disney Plus, but it was a 2-season series that they did, and it was Hayley Atwell playing Peggy Carter for 2 seasons. It was incredible. And I remember watching it and going, she should be Lara Croft. She is just perfect in the role. So finally, we get to have her in the role in some capacity, and I'm so overjoyed with excited. You know, manifestation does exist. All those people that are spiritual and have crystals and all that kind of stuff, we did it. It's real. I proved it. I made it into fruition. So I'm so excited. As for this review, so it's going to be a bit different. So if you've listened to my review of Doctor Who: The Screams of Shallcra, you will know how this review will go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch one episode, pause the show, come back here, review said episode of how I feel, what I like about it, what I don't like about X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to go off. I'm going to say, like, watch episode 2, and then I'm going to go back and review that. And that's how this whole sort of series is going to be. And at the end of all 8 episodes, at the end of this podcast, or I might split it into 2. It depends. It depends on how much I talk and how much information I get out of each episode, really. But at the end of the podcast, then we'll do an overall sort of season wrap up, what I thought, what my thoughts and feelings. Also, the way I'm going to do it, I'm not a binge watcher. Even if I really, really enjoy a show, I try not to binge watch. So more than likely, I'll probably watch 2 episodes. I'll leave it a day or 2 and I'll come back. So if I sound a little different, or if it seems a bit like sort of odd, or it sounds like I'm trying to catch up with myself, more than likely I probably am, because I haven't binged the show. I'm just taking it as it comes. Try to enjoy it for as much as possible. I haven't looked at any reviews. I know reviews are out. Spoilers are all over Twitter, by the way. As of writing this, spoilers are over Twitter, so I'm trying to stay away from them. But that's how this episode is going to go. Really, it's going to be the introduction, then it's going to be episode 1 review, episode 2 review, and then so on and so forth. So that is how this episode is going to be structured. As for the premise, so there's not a lot to say about it at the moment. So the series takes place after the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy, which concluded with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it fills in the gap in the timeline, bridging the reboot trilogy to the original series of the games. As for the voice cast, of course, we have the absolutely beautiful and gorgeous and incredible Hayley Atwell as Lara Croft, Maggie Lowe as young Lara, Alan Madonano as Zip, Earl Balon as Jonah. If you know who that guy is, he also did the voice of Jonah in the Survivor series of the games, so it's fantastic to have him back. Richard Armitage as Charles Devenbour, Zoe Boyle as Camilla Roth, Roxana Ortega as Abby Otis, Nolan North as Comrade Roth. Where did Nola come from? Sorry, I'm just really excited. I'm getting tongue-tied. I need to calm down and mellow a bit. Stan Walker as Leo, and Maria Janot as Jocelyn Reyners. And then we've got some guest speakers as well. So we've got Karen Fugahara as Sam Nishimura. I don't know if that's the same voice actor who played Sam in the video games, but more than likely, if they're bringing back the same voice actor for Jonah, then I'm more than sure that it is. And I really hope it is, because Sam's character was very fascinating and she was very integral to the first game. Ming-Na Wen as Eva Tong, Exana Hura as Deja, Jonathan Rumini as Winston, Rachel Rosenblum as Evelyn Kaya, and Ben Prendergast as Richard Croft. There's 8 episodes. So episode 1, A Single Step. Episode 2, A Set of Lies Agreed Upon. Episode 3, Living Nightmare. Episode 4, Big Lies, Small Secrets. Episode 5, Wagahanahan Batata. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, but yeah, that one. Episode 6, The Spirit Way. Episode 7, Yin Yang. And episode 8, A Journey of 1,000 Miles. So that is all of that. One thing I wanted to do before we wrap things up quickly, I wanted to talk about this Radio Times interview that Hayley Atwell did for the Lara Croft. It's very, very fascinating. So, speaking exclusively to Radio Times ahead of the release of the Tomb Raider show on Netflix, Atwell explains, even if people are not that familiar with the games or even have one more film or another or any of the other movies, she's a very known, beloved figure, and she's been with us for decades now, and I've always loved that fact that the writers were women. One of the women that she was created by was Vicky Arnold, who was the scriptwriter for the original Tomb Raider games. She was then later shaped by Rhianna Pratchett, who in my opinion wrote the character the best, but again, that's my opinion. She was the writer on the 2013 and 2015 Tomb Raider reboot games, and then Jill Murray, writer on the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, who developed her further down the line. And now we have Tasha Hu, who's the showrunner of the Netflix series. And so what I've loved is the fact that you've had this character that has existed, that she continues to develop, and that's what I think makes her so enduring. It's easy to see that the new Tomb Raider series was written by a woman, perhaps most of all in the small details. In one scene, Lara declares to all that can hear that a dress she's wearing has pockets. Atwell points out that the importance of her having a hair tie to hand, those little details kind of humanize her, I think, and make her accessible. She adds, other women who have shaped the character include Alicia Vikander and Angelina Jolie, on the big screen, and Atwell is keen to honour their legacy while also adding something new. She says, these are very dramatic, strong women who have had great range and variety in their careers. And Keely Holmes doing voiceover work, there's so many incredible women that have played her. And what I've loved is that they all bring themselves to it, their own interpretation, their own voice, their own physicality. But what we all retain is an understanding fundamentally about what Lara is about. Atwell points out, she's this adventurer who goes on these myth-fueled perilous solo adventures, and she also has this background where, although it's a huge privilege, there has been a cost. Lara's emotionally struggling with things, and in this series you see that. It basically picks up after the events of the games of the Survivor trilogy. She's emotionally at her lowest point, and she's been abandoning her friends to embark on all these solo adventures. But one of these adventures actually leads her back to home, where she's having to confront who she really is opposite her friends. For example, Lara might be driven by this belief that what she's doing is important and heroic or brave, but it might be her friends pointing out that she's also trying to probably run away from her feelings. She'd rather be jumping off cliffs and examining ancient artifacts with evil spirits than she would be dealing with the fact that she doesn't really like to be at a party. She gets anxiety. I think that's charming and endearing, and it's gives me an opportunity as an actor to bring that particular quality to her, which may be different from what we've seen before, but certainly in keeping with what we know her to be. It's absolutely incredible that she understands the character. And just read, I read this before I started recording, and to read all this, and it goes on, and it's a long article, so I won't go into it all, but just reading those few bits tells me that they made the right choice in the voice actor in Hayley Atwell. And I was right in choosing her, because that says to me that she knows the character. She knows the character. She understands the character. She understands what the character's feeling, not just in general as Lara Croft, but what Lara Croft, this version of Lara Croft from the Survivor series, is feeling. Because if you've played those games, I won't go into it, but if you played those games, you can see how much she evolves from the first game and how much she struggled to kill a deer when she made her first kill. It was really difficult. And when she first killed her first person, her first human, it was a struggle. And as you go through the games, by the time you get to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, she's like the Predator. She is like the alpha and everybody else is beneath her, and like she is a danger, and the soldiers know that she's dangerous and are terrified of her. And you see this evolution, and what does all those different adventures and all those evolution does to a person, does to a character. You know, what is she running away from? What is she not dealing with? And I find that absolutely fascinating. If anything, it gets me more excited to go into this show, knowing this, knowing that the actress understands the character, understands the role, understands Lara, and it kind of gives me hope that whatever this show is as a continuation does what I was hoping to do, which is to be a fantastic, epic Lara Croft adventure story. Like, I've been waiting years for this. We all have. As Lara Croft fans, we want more. And it's been drips and drabs for a long time. To be honest, the Survivor series was the last series I've seen in a long time. And I'm still waiting for the next game. So to know that this is a continuation of that, and that however this ends, could be sort of the continuation, either a series 2 or into the next game, I don't know. But I'm really excited. See if she gets a twin pistols in here. We'll see. But she seems to favour her pickaxe, which is fine. But I really want to see the iconic twin dual pistols. So we'll see. But I'm very excited, as you can tell. I'm very much sort of full of beans. So without further ado, I'm going to go off and watch the first episode. And then I'm going to come back and I'll let you know what I think. So I'm going to go now. See ya. Right, so I've just finished episode 1, A Single Step, and first impressions is it's absolutely wonderful, incredible, and I love it. It does everything that you want a series like this to do, which is to pull you in, is to intrigue you, is to make you want to keep watching. And in terms of Lara Croft, it does that in spades. I am now interested and invested of wanting to keep watching. I want to know more about Lara and her adventure. I want to know more about what's happening. You get tons of action, you get tons of badass scenes, the visuals and the artistry is incredible. It actually plays really, really well. Hayley Atwell is incredible in the role, and it kind of makes me hope that at the end of this series, if it is successful and they decide to do more and they carry on this Lara story, that she does the voice for Lara for the games, or even if they bring her to do a live action version of Lara, I don't know. But her voice just fits so perfectly and natural with Lara that it's one of those where it always feels like she has always been the voice for Lara, if that makes sense. She just feels so organic and so natural in the role that you just think, yep, that is Lara, because that's the way her voice sounds in this role. Before I get into one of the things that I loved and all this and this and that, I just want to mention one thing that kind of, it's not a negative, it's nothing bad. It was just kind of something that seemed a bit off to me. The way this series begins, it's kind of like a flashback. So you get to see Lara on her first adventure before she goes to Yamatai. She's on an adventure with Roth, who is a character from Tomb Raider 2013. He dies. He sacrifices himself to save Lara from Matthias and his men. And that's a big thing in that game. It's a big thing in that story. It's a big turning point for Lara, really. After that point, she's a very different person after that. And this series does go into that and talks about it. But the only sort of issue I have is the fact of the Lara that you see in the flashback seems a bit too capable. She already feels like the Tomb Raider. Now, she shouldn't, because of the events of the 3 games. By the end of Shadow, she is quote unquote the Tomb Raider. Really, she's gone for a revolution. By the end of that, she is now the Tomb Raider, as we all know. But she seems a bit too capable at the beginning. She seems like she's done this multiple times before, when really I would presume, it never says it, that is her first adventure. And that's the only sort of issue I have. It's not a big one, it's not a problem. It's just one of those that as I was watching it, I thought, oh, this is great, this is fantastic. But then you realise that it's a flashback. You're like, oh, well, she shouldn't be this skilled, because she's a bit too Lara, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean. She's meant to be like a college, university student. She's meant to be very fresh, very green, very sort of like Yamatai was really meant to be her first proper adventure, which I don't mind her having adventures before that, but she shouldn't have been as skilled as she is. But that's fine. It's not an issue. It's just, because I've played the games, I know her journey. So it was a bit off for me. But if you hadn't played the games and you was just watching the show, then it probably wouldn't be an issue for you, to be honest. Or if you wasn't as invested in the character as I am, or as other people might be, then it probably wouldn't be an issue for you. It's just something that I noticed that I wanted to mention. But again, it's not an issue. It doesn't ruin the episode for me, and it probably won't ruin the episode for you, to be honest. But what I loved about it, though, despite her being really capable, was the fact of it set in motion this overarching sort of story narrative that I feel like going to follow, is that this Lara is dealing with a lot. She reminds me, and I know it's a bit of a weird connection, but she reminds me a bit of the Doctor from Doctor Who. And I'm not going to go deep into it, but what I mean by that is the fact of the Doctor is always running away from his problems. He's never has the chance to sit down, really, or allows himself to sit down and deal with the Time War. It's just the fact of he keeps going and going and going and going and going, never stopping, never slowing. And then eventually, as we saw in the 6th anniversary, he broke down. It was a big thing. And that's kind of what it is with Lara, is the fact of after the events of Yamatai, after what happened with her best friend Sam, after losing a lot of the people on that crew, and then to losing Roth as well, which is basically a father figure. Like, once her father died, Roth took over as the father, sort of like fatherly role. So when he died, she turns, and she does in the game as well. Her actions, the way she is, she's a lot more ruthless when he passes as well. And that's what I loved about the introduction. The introduction kind of set up this idea of, like, he taught Lara, you have to survive. He makes this thing where she gets captured by these guys, and he says to her, Lara, close your eyes. And she doesn't want to close her eyes. He's like, Lara, close your eyes. So she closes her eyes, and you hear a gunshot. She opens her eyes. The guy that was holding her is now dead in front of her, bullet to the head, and she's in tears. She's crying, and he's looking. He's like, look, listen, it was either you or him. And in these situations, it's always you. You have to survive. And that lasts with her, again, to Yamatai, to the rest of the games. And it shows here as well in this episode. She's dealing with a lot, and you can tell that she's running away from her problems, that she doesn't want to deal with it. Like, you've got Jonah, and you've got... so I've got a note of all the characters. You've got Zip, which is a new character. I don't know if he's been in any games. I'm basically saying to her, like, come home. Relax, like, the adventure's over, you've done, you don't have to keep following your father's legacy, you can relax. And she does try, but again, as adventure does, a guy called Charles Davenborough, played by Richard Armitage, comes into the picture and kind of muddles things up and then gets the adventure going. But I just loved this introduction that we get to see Lara basically running away from her problems. And it all started with Yamatai. They all started with the death of Roth. And then since then, she has just been going from one adventure to the next. And it has been, because since Roth's passing, well, actually, no, since her first adventure, 3 years had taken place. So it was like the first year Yamatai, second year the Rise of the Tomb Raider game, third year she's in like at the Amazon with the Mayans, and doing that with the sacrificial knife and all that. So each year she was doing something. She was always on to the next one. Obviously with Trinity behind her as well, she probably couldn't stop. But I just love this continuation of like she's not dealing with a trauma, that she is very sad, that she has got a lot of problems. She would rather, like when there's a party, instead of dealing with people and talking to people, she'd rather be in the back with the rest of the staff playing poker or whatever. And it's fantastic. And this Lara is really, really well written. Obviously, there's more episodes to come, but so far she seems very, very well written. Hayley Atwell does a fantastic job. There's a lot of action sequences. There's a lot of badass moments. Like there's a moment at the end when Charles comes in and basically decides to rob Lara, and she catches him in the act, and she has this really cool sort of fight. I don't know what it's called. I wish I knew the name of this weapon, but it has a knife on the front and a piece of rope, and by using your body and using certain motions with your body, you can propel that blade at immense speeds. I've seen videos on YouTube of people do it. It's absolutely incredible. But she was doing this with this guy, and he was going toe to toe with her. And then he gets away. He gets away on a bike. So she takes a Jaguar, chases him down. Jaguar crashes. Then she gets out of the Jag. And then she gets on a bicycle, and she keeps going. Like it's that one of the never stopping sort of thing. Lara's on your tail. Lara's on your tail. And so you got the adventure, you got the action, you got everything that you wanted, and you got a lot of the human character as well. And you get to see characters like Jonah and that reappear, and Sam. And yeah, so far I'm intrigued, and I'm interested to see where it's going. Yes, the beginning got to me a little bit, but it didn't ruin my experience. And I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. I can look over it, look past it. It was a cool sequence. It set up the whole narrative, the whole sort of relationship she had with Roth, a lot more deeper than what we got to see in the games. And again, for me, knowing that I've played the games, knowing how much Roth's deaths affected her, I could then see of like, okay, no, I can see why. I can see a bit more of that backstory, and I can understand a lot more to the character and where she is now. So yeah, I'm hyped. I'm excited. I'm going to go off now and watch episode 2. Let's see if it keeps up the pace. Let's see. Pick, show us the pick. Pick, show us the pick. Finally, we get it, and I'm glad we get it this early. We get to see Lara's legendary, and what is now legendary for this iteration of the character, her trusty climbing pickaxe, and we get her with a bow and arrow doing Lara things where she ties rope to it, fires the arrow off, and then go like parasails down sort of a chasm. It's great. This whole episode is great. Like this again, I'm trying my best to stay away from spoilers, because I would imagine that whoever's listened to this probably either hasn't watched it or is probably watching along. But I still want to keep away from major spoilers, just in case there are anybody there who's going to listen to my thoughts and feelings first before they listen to the show. So I don't want to get into spoilers, but the mystery is getting deeper. There's a lot, like what I loved about the video games, the Survivor series, or even just the classic ones as well, was that to every mystery there was some sort of element of realism. For example, so you had the bit of mystery, but you also had a bit of realism. So, for example, in the first game, you had the Queen, and that she was like a god, and that she had these mystical powers, that she was basically interned on the island of Yamatai because she was too dangerous to be in the mainland, and that's where she was for all eternity, really, until Lara came and Matthias and all that. Then we have, I think it's Jonas, who was in the second game, that he was basically seen as a sort of Jesus type figure, a sort of disciple, a sort of evangelical sort of character. And it turns out that yes, he has been living forever, and the reason why he's lived for so long is because he found a crystal kind of like the Philosopher's Stone that gives him eternal life, for example. And again, I like these sort of things because as you go through the games, you constantly question of like, well, what's real, what's not real? Is it fantasy? Is it mystical? Or is there some sort of realistic element to it? And that's where my brain's going with this, because there's a lot of things that you see in this episode. You see spirits, you see big hulking monsters, and you ask the questions of like, well, is that mysticism? Like, is what is this story? Where's it going? But at the same stage, is the fact of, is there a human element to it as well? Is it all just a trick? And I love that. I love just sitting there trying to figure out and try to see where the story's going and where the mystery's going and why the emerald box and the ruby box that they're both going after, that Lara's going after, why it's so important. And I love that. Also, we get Jonah, who comes with Lara in this. And I love when Jonah's in this with Lara, because Lara's very much of the fact of do it yourself. I'll always be better off on my own, that sort of thing, especially the survivor version of Lara. And I liked that from the second game and the third game, Jonah was there in the background. He wasn't always like with her on the adventure. Lara was always on her own. But Jonah was there, and he was sort of a moment of clarity of like, look, listen, there are times when, okay, I get what you're trying to do, there's revenge or whatever, but she kind of grounds Lara and gets her to really think about what she's doing and where she is. And he does the same here, where Lara is so focused on trying to beat the thief, beat the bloke that stole the emerald box, and to figure out what he's there for. At the same stage, it's also the fact of, she's trying to figure out what's going on. And then sort of you got Jonah being like, look, Lara, it's not about the box at the moment. It's about saving these kids, because she's got to this village and the woman's like, I'll tell you what you want to know, but first I want you to help save these children that have been taken from the town. And obviously Lara says, yeah, I'll do it, in turn for a guide. And in doing so, she finds what she was looking for anyway, but she also saves the kids. And Jonah's each time he's like, look, Lara, remember, we're here to save the kids. That's what matters. And luckily, with obviously story-wise, it kind of links together Lara saving the kids and finding what she wants as well, and kind of learning and where to go next and how the mystery deepens and that sort of thing. So I love having Jonah there because he really grounds Lara. Because if Jonah wasn't there, you'd have a Lara that was very reckless. You'd have a Lara that would put herself in danger a lot more. She would be very sort of irrational, really. And even Jonah makes a point where he says, like, this is the Lara that I know. She's not just the adventurer. She's not just the Tomb Raider. Lara is the savior of children. Lara is the helper of the few, really, of the people, of the village. And that is who Lara Croft really is. And I love that. I mean, there's a few Easter eggs here and there for people who are a fan of the Lara Croft games. One of the great ones was that she picks up one of the kids when she finds him and tries to take herself and the child through this small little gap that she came in through. And she looks at it and she goes, I can't do that right now. Or something like that. She goes, I can't do that. It won't work. And it just goes like, yeah, that's something that Lara has said in the video games. And it was very funny, very clever. And there was also a bit of an Easter egg for Indiana Jones. When Indiana in the first Indiana Jones movie, when he gets that idol and he's looking at it, he scratches his chin, and then he puts a bag of sand and he moves the thing. Lara does the same thing. She looks at it, she scratches the chin. She doesn't put a bag of sand, but she does lift up the idol and nothing happens, and then something does happen. It was very great. It was fantastic. Very sort of homage sort of thing, because obviously Indy came first, then Lara. So obviously you got to respect those that came before. But this second episode, it still got me hooked. I'm still intrigued. I'm still interested, and I want to see where this adventure goes. Like I said, I'm still trying to, in my head, try to solve this puzzle, trying to think of where it's going to go. You've got hints that it might go to this place. You've got hints that it might go to that place. You've got the hints that what the original story of these boxes is might not be the full story, that there might be something more to it. So, yeah, overall, I am just on the edge of my seat. And 2 episodes in, I am excited. So whatever episode 3 is going to be, I'm ready for it. So I'm going to go off and watch episode 3, and I'll let you all know what I think about it in a minute. Well. Down the rabbit hole we go. This episode starts off with something that I don't really want to mention because it's a huge spoiler. But it does get resolved in this episode. This spoiler does. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, no, that didn't happen. I don't believe it because they already did it once in the last game in Shadow, and I felt for it then, and even Lara felt for it then. But then when it was revealed that what we thought happened didn't happen, it was very much the fact of, oh, okay. And same thing kind of happened here, and I had a feeling it would do. So it's not really an issue. It's just one of those, the fact of I didn't believe it, but I wasn't expecting it to be resolved so soon by the end of this episode. But again, if you've seen the episode, you know what I mean. But apart from that, it's pretty good. It's still the show's still doing a fantastic job. I'm still enjoying myself. There's not a moment where I'm sitting there going, "Oh, it's getting boring now. I want to look at my phone." Like I'm still on the edge. I'm still involved in the mystery. I'm still trying to understand what's going on about who is who and stuff like that. Like we learn more about Charles Devenbour, about his backstory, about who he is, and that he kind of sees himself and Lara as equal. Whereas like Lara's father was killed by Trinity because he got too close, so they had to take him out. His family was killed because he got too close. Well, his parents or his family got too close, and his family was killed by a different organization. I think he called it the Children of the Light or something like that. So he sees him and Lara on the same position. Very sort of typical villain sort of thing where it's like, we are the same. You should join me. Like, what would you do if you had this power or this power that we're going after? What took you a couple of years to do to Trinity would only take me a weekend with this power. If we work together, we can get there soon, and we can rid this new sort of syndicate cult, which we haven't seen. It's just we've got to take his word for it, so we can take them out and change the world for the better and that sort of thing. So the mystery is deepening. There's a lot more to it. You get to see a feral Lara here. She manages to find and possess the ruby stone, what the ruby, and we learn more about what the ruby, what each stone is and what it entails. Kind of very much the fact of what I was saying in the last episode of like every story, every tale has a nugget of truth. So every time you hear a true sort of account of like a creation myth or whatever culture or religion has a flood story, there is a premise or nugget of truth in that story, just been pumped up enough over the centuries with fanciful and sort of make it a bit more interesting to tell around a fire than it is just to say this happened and that happened, and it also kind of brings the idea of yin and yang. Yeah, and I'm trying to drop hints, but at the same time I'm trying to be very vague, and how it revolves around Chinese mythology and stuff like that. Like I really found it quite fascinating. Like this whole mystery, everything that's going on about these stones are incredible, and how each stone has a different power. It kind of reminds me of the Infinity Gauntlet. Like each stone has its own specific ability, its own specific power, that whoever wields said stone will be imbued with said power. So like when Lara managed to get hold of the ruby stone, she just goes feral. She literally not turns into an animal, but she's like animalistic. She's fighting with her claws. She's fighting with her hands, trying to claw and rip guys' throats out, things like that, and being very ferocious and not caring that she's killing people. Like this is one guy where he goes to shoot her, so she grabs a bloke off the floor and uses him as a human shield, while the other guy shoots him, and she doesn't care. She really doesn't, and she punts this one guy off this balcony for him to be eaten by lions. It's brutal, and this whole series of 3 episodes have been brutal. Like the visuals have been incredible. Hayley Atwell's incredible. Like Hayley Atwell in this, I am sold on Hayley Atwell. I knew she'd be a right pick. If anything, it was a fantasy draft. It was like, this is what I'd love to see, but it probably never happen. But to have it and to hear it and to see it, into some capacity. That is, she does a fantastic job. She's incredible. You can feel the heartbreak. You can feel the loss. You can feel the adrenaline. You can feel the everything that you can just feel that this is Lara. This is a continuation of her story. She just fits the role so well, and I just love it. So episode 3 gives me everything that I wanted. It ends on a cliffhanger. It kind of answers a lot of questions, but doesn't answer any questions. There's a couple more stones to find. We're going into episode 4. I am hooked. Now, things could change. Things could get worse from this point on. I don't think they will do, to be honest. So far, I'm loving it. So far, it's fantastic. It's really well written. It's well produced. The animation is incredible. Everything about it is just epic so far. So we will see. It might get worse. It might not. I doubt it. But on to episode 4. Right, so I've just finished episode 4, Big Lies, Small Secrets, and I really enjoyed this episode, and not for what you'd expect. And let me explain. So this episode, things slow down. Now, the reason why I liked it is because of that. Now, I know that might seem a bit backwards, but when you have a show like this, or when you have any sort of show where there's a lot of action, there's a lot of epic moments, a lot of set pieces, a lot of traveling, a lot of information dumps, you need an episode where things slow down, where you give the character and the watcher a sort of moment to breathe, a moment to take in everything that we've already established, and then maybe introduce a few things or have a little bit of character development. And that's what you get here, really. You get a moment where Lara gets to slow down, where you get to learn more about her struggles, about her trauma, everything that she's dealing with, as well as you get to introduce new characters, and you can set up what is going on and what it means for whatever episodes to come next, really. So I'll try to stay clear from spoilers, but you get introduced to a brand new character. I was going to say Carmilla. I don't think it is Carmilla, is it? 1 second, let me check. Is it Carmilla? Yeah, it is Camilla, who we find out is the daughter of Roth from the first game. I didn't even know he had a daughter. And we find out their backstory about their relationship together and how they grew up with each other. So you get a good slow premise of getting to know them, about why she's integral to the story. You get to have a few flashbacks where Lara is dealing with a trauma. You can tell that it's really getting to her now, that she blames herself for Roth's death. She blames herself for all the death of all her friends and everything that's happened up until this point, and that she's just constantly being like, it's me, I'm better off on my own. And obviously we get a sort of, not a full conclusion, but we get a bit of a conclusion to that. We still get our action. We still get the cool set pieces. We still get moments, but we learn more about, importantly, Charles Davenport, his character, and we realise that why he feels that him and Lara are kindred spirits, and why they're on the same sort of path, and why she should really join him in his current crusade. We learn more about the light, more about this organization, and we learn that they used to be Templars, but they were corrupted by one of the stones, and now they're still doing what the Templars are set out to do, but they are just looking to dominate, looking out to control in use of the stones. And so even though this episode is slower and it's kind of come down a bit, there are still action set pieces, there's still intrigue, there's still mystery. I still don't know where it's all going. I still have no idea of what's going to happen, but that's a good thing, because I don't really feel like I need to know until I need to know. The thing is with a mystery, you don't need to know how the mystery works. You don't need to know how the magic is performed to know that it's magic, to be amazed. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel, is the fact of, don't tell me everything. I don't want to know everything. Just give me drips, give me drabs, and let me figure it out as Lara figures it out. That's the natural way. And I'm figuring out as she figures out. Whenever she gets a revelation, I'm getting a revelation. When she figures something out, I figure something out. So it's a symbiotic sort of thing. And I like that. That's natural. It keeps it fluid. It keeps it organic. It keeps the show interesting. It keeps you watching more, to be honest. And I know, like with Netflix, they release all their episodes in one bulk, and you can kind of watch them all together. But I would happily, if this was like the last episode, I had to wait a week, I would be interested of like, oh God, I can't wait till next week to watch the next episode. So it still got me hooked. It still got me interested. I love the pace of this episode. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. Like I said, next is episode 5. And then from there, we just have episode 6, episode 7, episode 8. So after we reach the halfway mark, we've only got three more episodes until this whole series is over and done with. Really, I'm really enjoying it, and I wish it was longer. But at the same stage, it feels like this show is the right length so far. You know, it feels like I'm getting what I need in each episode. I'm enjoying the development. I'm enjoying the characters. Everything just feels organic. And again, Haley Atwell was incredible. All the voice cast incredible. The visuals incredible. So far, I'm really loving it, enjoying it. So episode 4 still has me going. I'm going to go watch episode 5 now, which is the name I can't pronounce. I'm going to try it one more time. Tanga? Yeah, that one. Anyway, I'm going to go watch that now. So I'll see you all in a minute. Right, so I've just finished episode 5, and I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I've tried a couple times to record this or even write down notes, and it's a bit difficult. It's not that it's a bad episode. It's not that it's terrible or this is kind of the drop-off. It's none of those things. It's just the fact of I was expecting, after the slow sort of episode that 4 was, and for good reason, as I explained, that the way that ends, that 5, 6, 7, and 8 leading up to that would be the quick ones. But with 5, it starts off very quick. It starts off very sort of full of action. You know, Lara, she base jumps out of a plane. There's a big explosion. She gets knocked off course. A package lands next to her. She gets on a motorcycle and she gets to the carnage and rubble. Then she sees Jonah on a train. She follows the train on a motorcycle, manages to jump onto the moving train. It's really epic, real sort of cool scene. And then she's got, as she goes through the carriage, she realizes all the people on the carriage are mind controlled. And it's like a very cool scene. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a cool little action sequence that happens in the train. And I was thinking, okay, cool. You know, we're going to get more of this. We're leading up to sort of the close, not the complete conclusion, but we're leading up to things starting to ramp up, right? And then it slows down a bit. And it's not a bad thing it slows down. It's just the fact of it's more of a roller coaster. Like the last episode ends on a high. You keep going up on that high, and you have you finally get to the climax. You get to the very top of the roller coaster, and you're like, as you start to, you know, plummet. And you're like, yeah, this is cool. And then instead of going a couple of loop-de-loops and, you know, around a few bends, it just one big dive, and then it just goes on a flat plane. And again, it's not that it's boring. It's just the fact of I just wasn't expecting it to kind of slow down again in this. But there are good points about it. She finally gets to talk to Jonah. She kind of like gets to apologize to him. And you also get a lot more realization about what is going on in the world and how the world's in balance, that there's earthquakes and that there's sinkholes opening up and like animals, birds are falling out the sky and dropping dead, and you know there's volcanoes going off and tsunamis, and like the world is in balance. So you do get these little bits of extra things, but despite all that, I still like the episode. I still think it's quite good. If anything, I would say, and I hope I'm right, if anything, I would say this is the episode where, when it ends, this is the episode you'd say, okay, things are going to go upwards from here, because at the end of it, Lara's getting equipped. She's getting all new equipment. She's getting things, the special lead-made boxes to hold all of the stones when she manages to get them. So I'd like to think that from now on, things are starting to ramp up. So then when we go into like episode 6, the Spirit Way, and we get episode 7, Yin Yang, and when we get to episode 8, A Journey of 1,000 Miles, that we're gonna see some action. We're gonna see some epicness. We're gonna see Lara being Lara. Will we see the dual guns? We will see. I hope so. I really, really hope so. I want to see her use dual pistols. If we're going to have this character, we're going to see this version of Lara on this journey, on this adventure, on this evolution. I want to see her, even if at the very end, I want to see her get her two twin pistols. And I want to see her use them, and I want to see her be badass with them and do the pose. We all know the Lara twin pistol pose. Okay, do that pose. Even if it's like the last credits things where like a camera pulls in, she does the pose, then it ends. I'd be happy. I just want to see her to use the guns and do the pose, and then I'll be happy. Right. Also, one thing I want to mention is that we are at sort of the episode 5, so we're at the middle. Now, from here on, we've only got 3 more episodes to go. So a bit of a sort of wrap up of things so far. I really love the show. I think it's fantastic. I really love Hayley Atwell. She's done an absolutely incredible job. And to be honest, there are times where I forget it's Hayley Atwell. Generally, Hayley's voice is so good as Lara's that I forget it's Hayley, and I just feel like it's Lara, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does. It probably doesn't. But I forget it's Hayley Atwell at times. It just works so well. All the other cast is well cast and well voiced as well. The visuals are really good. I love how they splice in 3D sort of animation with the hand-drawn sort of anime style on top of it, especially when you have like the destruction parts. Like in this episode, Lara's going through a building that's falling to pieces. And as she's on the motorcycle, all the bits that are really close to her are all in sort of animated sort of style. But the buildings that are falling to pieces and that behind her and next to her, things that are going to fall on her, that's all rendered in 3D. And it works so well. It's one of those where it's like, it could be done really bad and you could notice it, but it's one of those where it's done so well and so artistically that even though you can tell that it's 3D and the rest is sort of like 2D, it works so well in the scene that I love. And you get many moments like that. The action's great. Like I said, the only real issue that I have still is just the fact of the first episode at the very beginning where she seemed a bit too sort of prepared. She seems a bit too sort of capable. And obviously that was kind of against what Lara was and who she was in the first game, because again, that was meant to take place before the game. Which, to be honest with you, that small thing out of 5 episodes now, it's still pretty good. Now, granted, yes, I might be biased because I love Lara Croft. I love everything to do with Lara Croft. So, yes, you could say, well, Luke, you're biased. And that's a fair thing to say. But as a fan, as somebody who's a fan of the classic Lara, who's a fan of the games, who is a fan of the character and the movies, I feel like I'm being well serviced here. If this is meant to be fan servicey, then I feel serviced. But even if I wasn't a fan, if I was generally just somebody who knew about Lara Croft but wasn't really had any interest, and I just decided to watch it because there's nothing else on Netflix, I would still really, really enjoy this. I would still have a good time. I'd still want to watch more because it's everything that you want it to be. You want the action, you want the thrills, you want the mystery, you want good character development, you want good casting, you want good writing, and that's what you get here. And I haven't had anything that might make me think otherwise, apart from that small little bit that, if anything, again, if you wasn't a fan of the games or the character, it wouldn't bother you at all. You know what I mean? So overall, fantastic. Again, like I said, we've got 3 episodes to go. Episode 6 could be the one. Episode 7 could be the one. Or we could get all the way to episode 8 and have a really bad conclusion. I doubt it, but we will see. So I'm going to go off now and watch episode 6, and I'll see you all in a minute. Right, so this was another slow episode, to us. There's not really a lot to say. I had hoped, and as you know, that by the time we get to this episode, as it leads into like the final 2, that this is where it starts ramping up. This was another slow one, which isn't a bad thing. It's not bad for a show to go slow, especially like a high-octane show like this. It's got to have its dips. It's got to have its moments of high-octane adventure, and then, it's got to have its moments where you have the character development, stuff like that. And in this one, you do get a lot of that. You get puzzle solving, which was a lot of fun. There was a puzzle that Lara and Jonah solved together, and it reminds me very much of not just the survival games, but also the original Lara Croft as well. So you have a bit of Easter eggs there, and you kind of paying homage to the character. So that was fantastic. You do have action scenes. There is one really cool moment where Lara's in her element, sand surfing, and she's dodging little sand tornadoes, kind of mummy-esque sort of thing, and she's kicking ass, and somebody shoots her, and like a bullet just grazes her arm, her arm's leaking with blood, but she just takes it and just like shrugs it off and knocks the guy out, and like doesn't even phase her, like, oh, I've been shot, but all right, it's just a flesh wound. She keeps going. Again, badass moments like this. But there's not really much to talk about. The only thing I would say in this episode that was really glaring to me, apart from the puzzle part, which I really, really liked, was there is a moment where at the end, I don't want to go into spoilers, but there was a moment at the end, just before things start to stop, where Lara, she's defeated, or at least she feels defeated. She has been dropped off a cliff. She is bleeding profusely from her arm, like she's cut up. She is absolutely destroyed, both physically and in a way mentally as well. She's dealing with a lot of a trauma, and this whole series has been dealing with that trauma of the events of the 3 games. Of that, at any point, Lara has never stopped. She's kept going from one adventure to the next. And Jonah asks the question. He goes, "What's next?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" He went, "Well, when we finish, when we stop Devereaux, and all's well and done, I'm going to go back to my restaurant. I've already planned out the menu. That's my life. What are you going to do? You're going to do it some extreme sport? Are you going to renovate your home? Are you going to settle down, or are you going to go another adventure? Like, what is it, Lara?" And she kind of like fobs the question off, and she's not dealing with any of the problems. And all she really gives to Jonah is the fact of, "Oh, that's why I don't go home, because there's too many memories." And Jonah basically says to her, like, "Look, you're not Roth, you're not Davenrow, you're something else. You're special." And really, if you read between the lines, what he's saying to her, and what she realised at the end of this, as she's literally crawling up the side of a hill and crawling away up and out of ruins, being like destroyed physically and mentally, and it's playing in her mind that she's realising that who I am is Lara. And eventually, I would imagine by the end of this series, she will be like, "Look, I am the Tomb Raider. That is me. I am not Roth. I am not this Davenrow. I am me." And I hope that's where it's going to. When we deal with all this trauma through the past few games and all the things that she's blaming herself for, that by the time we get to like episode 8, at the end of it, she would be a completely rounded individual. She's dealt with a lot of the troubles. And yeah, more than likely she will go off on another adventure. But again, that's Lara Croft. But at least she has dealt with the issues and she's come to terms with it. And she's not running away from her issues. She's not running away from her friends. She's not running away from the people that are there for her. So I really, really love that. I love that part where she's climbing up, bloodied, disheveled, sort of defeated. And she's dealing with a lot of the stuff. So I'm looking forward to what Yin Yang and A Journey of 1,000 Miles, the next 2 episodes, have in store. I would imagine at this point, again, I know I've said it for the past 2 episodes, but I have to imagine that now we've had our lulls and we've had our peace, like it's time for episode 7 and 8. I ain't going to say it now because I feel like I might shoot myself in the foot if the next episode isn't quick. But yeah, so we're in the end game now. We've got 2 episodes left, episode 7 and episode 8, and then we are done. So I'm going to go off and give them a watch, and I'll let you all know what I think shortly. This episode was just incredible on another level, on another level of epic proportion. It was awesome. And then you have a boss fight that feels straight out of the video games. I'm not on about the survival games. I'm about any Lara Croft video game. There were stages to it. There were moments. There were so many incredibly epic things, and I'm sitting there thinking, I want to play this. Like, I don't want to watch Lara do this. I would rather take control of Lara and play this out in the game. And and Lara has a moment of revelation where she realizes what kind of Croft she is. And I'm getting ahead of myself. And like, there's even like a moment where I feel it was my sort of Logan moment, my sort of Wolverine moment. Again, we'll get there. But yeah, this episode was epic. It was absolutely full of so much action scenes. And like I said, and I was glad I didn't eat my words. It gets going very quickly, straight away, almost to the point of where the way it ends, you would think the series would end at this point. But no, there's one more episode. That's how epic it goes. It just goes up, ends on a high note. And then it's just like, oh, well, I would assume that's it then. It's over. We're done. But no, there's still a lot more to come. And like in this, Lara sort of gets that moment where she, like I said, she realizes what a Croft she is, and that she realizes after all the trauma that she's gone through with the games and with the series so far, that at the end of it, she's not Roth, she's not her dad, she's not the Devereaux, she is Lara. She is Lara Croft. That's who she is, and I know I said in the first episode where I mentioned the Doctor Who and how he was running away from the Time War, and that eventually it caught up with him, and he realized he had to stop and actually, take a breath and realize what was going on and where it was leading him to. And it's the same thing with Lara, is the fact of she gets a moment where she realizes that I can't keep going on. Yes, I am a survivor, but that doesn't mean I don't have people that love me. I don't have friends and things like that. It's a really cool sort of case study, and looking into sort of the human nature, the human instinct, and human survival and that sort of thing, and what you could be led to in terms of pushing people away and when you go through these really traumatic sort of moments in your life, especially Lara. She's been through a lot. This version of Lara, anyway. And I absolutely love that, and it really helps benefit her as well when we get to the end fight, when Devereaux tries to take her over, and she basically, it works for a bit, but then she manages to fight it off. And he's like, how did you do that? And he's like, balance. And she's like, balance. At the end of the day, I've come to terms with my trauma. I've come to terms with my past. You haven't. That is why the stones corrupt you. And he makes a good point, and they mention in the episode. Devereaux says, it's not the stones that are evil, it's how people use them. And he's kind of hypocritical, because he uses the stone for evil. He uses the stones for revenge. Whereas Lara, she comes to terms with that fact. She gets balance with herself. So when she takes control of the stones, they are anything but just stones, really. It's very, very, it's very fascinating, very, very interesting. And like I said, the boss fight was incredible. Devereaux, he's got to the point now where he turns into a giant sort of Jinn. I think Jinn's the right word, but a giant sort of dragon. And it's like, it's what I love about it. And I don't really want to go into major spoilers, but I feel like I already am. And again, if you're listening this far, then we're at the end game anyway, so you are interested. But there is a moment when like, he's this big dragon, he's got like spikes coming off him, and each spike sort of equivalents to one of the stones. And when Lara sort of manages to break, like uses her climbing claw to scrape, and it's brutal as well. It's very, very brutal, very bloody. Scrapes into his arm and manages to scalp out the one stone. She realizes, oh, it's a stage. you've got to take out each stone individually, and as it does so, he gets weaker and he transforms more and more into sort of like a human werewolf beast sort of thing. It's incredible, and again, it's just like the games. It's an homage to the games, because in the video games, whenever there's a boss fight, especially in not just Lara games, but most games as well, where there's a boss fight, there's stages. If you've played any little Lara Croft game, it's like, okay, you've done that one stage. Okay, now you've got to do it in another way, or like it's a puzzle almost. And I love that. I really, really did. And then to get at the very, very end, my very own Logan moment. And what I mean by that, so if anybody who watched the film Wolverine, fantastic film, at the end of it, he finally gets given a case, and he opens the case on the plane, and he gets to wear the suit. Granted, as far up until before the Deadpool 3, that was just like an Easter egg, or sort of a promise that never happened, because we never got to see him wear the outfit. It wasn't until Deadpool 3 that we actually got to see him wear the iconic cowl and yellow and blue spandex, which is fine. We finally got it. But that was my moment. I remember watching that for the first time and getting so full of hope and so full of just excitement that, yes, we're finally going to get, Wolverine in the outfit. And that's how I feel here, because at the end of this episode, Zip basically gives her a case, and she opens it up, and she doesn't pull out what I want her to pull out at first. She pulls out holsters, and as soon as she pulls out the twin holsters, I'm like, yeah, baby, I know what's coming. And she picks them up, and she does the pose, and I'm like, yeah, baby, that's what I've been waiting for. Like, it was like that moment of like, it's only taken 3 games and 7 episodes, but finally we get them, and she needs them, not just because they're iconic to the character, because they are, but also to the fact of playing the 3 games, getting very close to Lara having dual pistols, but never fully going for it. I never know why they never went for it in the games, because obviously the TV show, the Netflix show, was never planned. I don't think it was anyway. If it was, why they left it so long? But again, that's neither here nor there. But for not doing it for so long in the video games, and then to finally get it here with the same character, with the character that I've somewhat grown up with, because I think I was in senior school when the first Lara game came out, the Tomb Raider game, the sort of survival series. And then I think I was in college or just starting uni when the last game came out. And I'm now working, and I'm 26 years old when the show comes out. It's been a long time coming. So finally we've got them, and like I said, the way this episode ends, you could end it on that cliffhanger of like, watch season 2 to see Lara use her 2 guns. But they don't. It's like, well, there's one more episode, A Journey of 1,000 Miles. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen in this final episode. At the end of this one, Davenro has been defeated, has been caught. Like I said, you would think this would be the end, but not. There's one more episode, so we're going to get to see Lara use the dual pistols, hopefully. We're going to go somewhere new. She's like, all I know is that she's going to return the stones. What that means or what that involves, I don't know. All I know is that Lara and Jonah are going off. She's got her twin guns. I'm done. I'm happy. You know what I mean? I've got everything that I've wanted out of this series so far and more. So whatever this final bonus episode is going to be, I'm already happy and say this is like a 10 out of 10. I loved it. And again, and I know it's a bit early to say, and I should leave my thoughts until the last episode. But I love it so far. I do. Maybe I'm biased because I love Lara, but so far I've got everything that I've wanted out of this episode and more. Maybe that will change with the final episode. We will see. I'm going to go watch it now, and then we'll come back and then we'll do a wrap up, and yeah, I'll give an overall thoughts and feelings of the series. So see you all in a minute. This last episode was the creme de la creme. It was the icing on the cake. It was the cherry on top. It is and was outstanding, to be honest. And it was complete fan service. But you know what? That's great, because this is my interpretation of it. It serves 2 purposes, right? It's a thank you to people for watching all the way to the end and watching the show, but also it's a thank you to fans, being like, look, I know you've been a fan of the games, and thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for watching it, and this bit's for you, because that's what it is. I'm going to go straight into spoilers. They go to another, well, not world, but a lost world, a land before time. There's dinosaurs, there's mysteries, there's puzzles, there's moments where I'm sitting there going, I have done this puzzle, or I have seen something like this in a Lara Croft game before. It's such an homage to what has come before. And it's Lara in her element. Like, she's no longer, like, she is now, if anything, ecto facto, the Tomb Raider. She's no longer held down by her trauma and her past or anything like that. Like, she is free to be Lara. And that's full force, she is Lara. Her and Jonah are solving puzzles, and there's intense moments, there's epic moments, there's Just incredible visuals and scenes. And at the end of it, she fights a T-Rex dinosaur with dual pistols, just like the video games. Honestly, well, mentioning the video games from watching this series, because I think I've mentioned it. I'm not one to binge. I'm not a binge watcher. I'll watch 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes, depends how much I'm enjoying it, and then I'll go back and I'll leave it a day or 2, then come back. And that's what I've been doing with this series. I've been watching a few episodes, recording them, going away, leave a day or 2, come back and watch it. And with each time I've sat down and watched an episode, I've just sat there and gone, I really have a hankering to play some Lara Croft. I haven't played the Survivor series in full in a long time. I love those games. I haven't played the original Lara Croft games in like forever. My dad had them on his PC when I was very young, so I haven't played them in a long time. I've got the Lara Croft games on Extra 360. I'm like, I just want to play some Lara. Like, that is what this show has done. I've sat there and gone, I don't want to be watching Lara. I want to be playing Lara. You know what I mean? Like, I love the show, but like, I really want to start playing some Lara Croft. It's just got me hankering for more Lara Croft in my life. And yeah, I know I said it in the last one, but with this one and how it ends, and it ends not on a cliffhanger, but ends in the possibility of, if there is a second season, there's another story, there's more to tell here, which I really hope they decide to do that. As I was watching this episode, I saw this on Twitter, and it was a quote from Screen Rant that Hayley Atwell had said when she did an interview with Total Film, and they asked her basically like about her involvement in Lara Croft, and she goes, to continue to be involved or to be involved in another way with Lara Croft would be an absolute dream, and also a responsibility I would take seriously given how beloved and known she is. I would be completely honored to carry on in some way. And absolutely, I want Hayley Atwell to continue to play. Like, even if she just does the voice, I would be happy for her to carry on as Lara, because, and I've said it in this whole series, her voice just fits Lara. It just suits Lara, and she looks like Lara. Like, maybe, yeah, not even maybe, yeah, she definitely does. She suits Lara, and I feel like if they did a live action Lara, she would look good as Lara as well. I love the voice actress who did the voice of Lara in the free Survivor games, but if they went, oh, we're doing a continuation of this character, but we're doing a brand new trilogy, we're getting a new voice actor, it's going to be Hayley Atwell, I wouldn't be upset about it. I'd be like, yeah, I'd champion it. I'd be like, that was the best decision you've made, you know. And yeah, like I said, maybe I'll come off as biased because I absolutely love Lara Croft, and that stops me, you know, noticing anything bad. But I don't think there was anything bad here. Like I said, the only real negative, and it wasn't really a negative, the only real thing that I noticed that somewhat bothered me was just the very episode at the very beginning where she seemed a bit too capable. But one tiny thing out of 8 episodes, that's still a 10 out of 10 in my book, you know. And like, I'm not going to go into major sort of detail, but, and I might talk about this. If I ever look into the Lara Croft games, I'll probably go into more detail about this. But Square Enix passing the sort of license, the Lara Croft license, back to Crystal Dynamics, or whatever they did, basically Square Enix like just dropping it completely and just letting it be free to do what its own thing is probably one of the best decisions as that's been made in a long time. Because when Square Enix had the Lara Croft IP, Lara Croft franchise, it was drips and drabs. It was here and there. It was little things. It was a game here, and it was a game there. Don't remember, the games were fantastic, but it was just little bits here and there. It wasn't enough. Whereas since Lara Croft, the IP, has become free of the shackles of Square Enix, we've got tons of things. We've got Lara Croft appearing everywhere. Granted, I don't play Fortnite, but she's appeared in Fortnite. She's appeared in Dead by Daylight. We've got the TV show. There's hints that we're going to have another series of games that are coming out. Again, I don't know if it's going to be continuation of this version of Lara or if it's a brand new reboot. I don't know. I don't care. I just want more Lara. But the point is, ever since that Lara Croft has become free, to do what they want, the people that own the license, we've gotten tons more, and it wouldn't we probably wouldn't get this show if it wasn't for that, and I'm just so overjoyed that we get tons more Lara. And that's kind of my conclusion, really, is the fact of this is an incredible series, and a series I'd happily rewatch. And I want a sequel. I want to go off and play the games now. And that's the overall sort of key factor, is the fact that if you wasn't a fan of Lara and you watch this show, there's a high potentiality after watching it, you probably would go, you know what, I want to go play the games, and you'd go out and buy the games. And that just shows to the developers that there is interest, and there is people that there is people out there who still want to play Lara, still love Lara, because she's an icon, especially in video games. And it just, I'm just so hopeful that finally something that I really love and enjoy is getting the recognition that it deserves, and it's getting it's revival. It's coming back, and I don't care what the future of Lara Croft is. All I care about is that we're getting more Lara Croft, and that is all I ever wanted. So to rattle it down, Haliat was incredible. The visuals are incredible. The story's incredible. The voice acting and other characters are a lot of fun and quite. There's a lot of adventures, there's a lot of puzzles. Everything about it is just incredible. I would give this a 10 out of 10. I know I don't usually do point things, but 5 stars. 10 out of 10. Blah blah blah. All that jazz. Like, it is creme de la creme. Incredible. And I don't care if I come off as biased at the end of the day. This is good. And if you've been watching along with me, you will probably notice and understand as to why I feel that way. And maybe you don't. Maybe you've watched this and go, it's not that good. Or, maybe you're not as big as a fan. Or maybe you watched it and it got you into wanting to play the games, or, do more, look into more of Lara Croft sort of stuff. I don't know. But overall, I am just overjoyed. I loved this show. It was incredible. And yeah, I'm just excited for whatever comes next. Fingers crossed this show does well. I think it is, from what I've seen on Twitter and the response, apart from IGN, but I don't take IGN seriously, and nobody else should really. But apart from IGN, everybody who I've seen has give it real high marks. Nobody's been really overly negative. Yeah, so far, so good. If I do a little thing, so on IMDb, it's got a 5.6 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes. Well, if we look at Rotten Tomatoes, not that Rotten Tomatoes really means anything anyway. Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 68%, which is it's rated fresh. So people are watching it and people are enjoying it. I love it. I think it's fantastic, and I want to see more. And I will be happy with another season. And if they don't do if they do one season and then a video game, I'd be happy with that. Or if they do 2 seasons in a video game, or if it's like, oh, we're going to carry on the Survivor series in TV show format, and then we're going to just reboot it in the video games, I'd be happy with that too. Like I said, and I know I'm repeating myself, but at the end of the day, I just want more Lara, and that is what we're getting, and I'm happy with it. I would love a live action movie. That probably won't happen anytime soon. I feel like they're starting, like, it's kind of like a reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise in a way of like they're starting again, they're building back up. Not that they ever went anywhere, not that they were failing, but I feel like this new era of Tomb Raider is they're starting again from scratch. They're building the character back up. They're building up the recognition. They're building up the memories, the nostalgia, to see if there's interest. And I feel like there is. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that it catches on and people start watching it and people buy the older games, and that slowly it will build up to, we'll release a few games. We'll see how they do. And if they do well, then there's hope that we could have a TV show. And like I said, Hayley Atwell would be fantastic. But I'd also like to see an older, more mature Lara Croft in Angelina Jolie. So who knows what could happen in the future? I just want more Lara, and that's what we're getting. And yeah, so that's my overall thoughts and feelings. Really, it's fantastic, it's incredible, and you have to watch it. If you haven't been watching it, sorry for spoilers, but now go off and watch it. It's on Netflix. You've got no excuse. It's easily accessible. Watch it, enjoy it, and let me know. That's it, really. If you've gotten this far and you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube, leave a comment. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think of the series. Have you been watching it? Are you a fan like I am? Is this giving you everything that you want it to be? Is it not being what you mean? Like, are you not got the rose tinted glasses of what I've got, and you're like, you know what, Luke, it's not that good? Then fine, I take it on completely, and I want to know everybody's thoughts and feelings on this show. I want to take a gauge of where fans are, or where not, or just general sort of audiences are. So by all means, whether it be Twitter or YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening, if you can leave a comment or write me a message or whatever, and just let me know what you think, because I'm really, really excited for the future of this franchise, of this character. I think there's a high potentiality that I'm going to look into some more Lara Croft things next year. I want to give no spoilers away, but I've got some plans. So if you're a Lara Croft fan and you want to hear me talk more about Lara Croft, then there are things in the pipelines that will be coming down the lines, possibly next summer. So something to look forward to. But that is it. That's all she wrote. Thank you very, very much for listening. Again, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Nerdstalgic_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. 5-star specifically if you're a Lara Croft fan. Like, if you're a Lara Croft fan like me, 5 stars, But yeah, thank you very, very much for listening. I've been your host, Luke the Human. It's been an absolute pleasure and enjoy. And I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, gang.